On today's episode of The Pipeline, we're talking about massive new Marvel projects that are in the works. Kung Fu Panda is back with a brand new trailer, and we are going to be talking about some of our favorite superhero moments from 2023. That and so much more in today's episode. Let's go. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Pipeline Podcast. I'm your host today, Daren Mcclimans, and we're joined by the one, the only, the fabulous, the amazing Joypad Jake. Jake,
hello.
How's it going today?
I'm good. How are all you guys? Thank you for having me.
Of course. We've chatted over on Council of Creators over these last couple of months, and it was about time I brought you over here and do what I do best, and that's steal from my friends.
Yeah, I mean, I only agreed to come on when you had a sufficient number of M&Ms at the gate. That was my acceptance fee. That was the acceptance fee.
I get it. And I'm very excited. As y'all know, we're heading towards the end of 2023, which is insane to think about. Like, I don't know how you're feeling. Like, this month has been going at like 2x speed. Like, we have like a week and a half, not even a week and a half until Christmas. Like, we are like
that is true.
11 days away. Like, it's
So.
insane.
Yeah.
We only have 3 episodes left of this year, and pretty sure you're our last new guest of 2023. The rest of our guests are people who have been on in the past. So you hold that honor, I guess.
I will take it.
We have a lot of fun stuff to talk about, though. Again, end of the year. Later on, we're going to be talking about some of our favorite superhero projects of 2023. Now, I do want to preface this early on. Like, when this is coming out, we have not seen What If and Aquaman 2. If those happen to be like the best things to ever come out, then I don't know what to say. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But Kai in the chat, Kai, how's it going? Hope everyone is having a good day.
There we go.
Yeah, let's just jump into today's episode. We have a lot of headlines to also cover, so we're just gonna jump into them. All right, our first headline today. The first trailer for Kung Fu Panda 4 released on Wednesday, and the internet has very differing opinions on this upcoming movie. Jake, are you a big fan of the Kung Fu Panda franchise? Is that something that you either like grew up on or was like a big fan of it over the years?
So I really loved the first film when it came out. And then kind of over the years gone by, not that I necessarily thought the films got worse, but it was maybe I was just getting older and part of me just got less attached to them. I still thought they were good movies. Each one still had their flaws that I wasn't thrilled with. They each had their aspects. I'm like, okay, this could have been done better.
Sure.
But overall, I thought each one had particularly strong elements. And I was worried initially whenever I saw that this was coming out, this fourth one, because it makes me wonder, it's like, how much can they keep doing to Poe as a character? Like, how much more can they keep pouring into them before he is just broken, if he's not already at this point? And it makes you wonder, like, where can his arc go from here? Because it went through a 3-film cycle of the student becoming the teacher. So it makes you wonder where they're going to go from here.
Yeah. I really love those first 2 films. I think those first 2 films, in my opinion, are almost like perfect movies. I love them very much. Oh, yeah. I do think the third one is a slight downgrade to the previous 2. But I do think the ending is like a perfect ending to like that trilogy. Like, I think with like his arc within those 3 movies are just absolutely amazing. Yeah. And I wasn't quite sure where we were going with this 4th movie. We had heard, it's been talked about for many years now. We heard that they were doing 4, 5, and 6, like this whole new trilogy of movies. And this is kind of the first we're kind of getting back into that. I don't know if there's still a 5 and 6 being made, if that's, a thing of the past. But the trailer came out, and again, I was very hyped. Like, once we had heard kind of what the movie was about and what they were doing, I was like, oh, this villain, like, he has like to pass the like dragon warrior heritage to someone else, and they have to like, you know, we have a villain that is going after, like, bringing back all the other villains. Like, that sounds like a very fun way to almost like wrap up the franchise and all of that kind of stuff. What was your thoughts on this trailer? Like, did this excite you for this movie, or are you kind of like, I'm not sure where we're going?
Um, I'm definitely interested. I mean, I really like these characters, and I like the overall narrative that they told, even if I have problems with some directions that it's taken along the way to get there. Um, it is interesting, and I pointed this out to you whenever we were on council, but the Furious Five were completely absent from this trailer, and
Yes.
it's a little bit funny to think that because they had such a prominent role in the first film, and then they kind of dwindled on after that. Like they got less and less
Hmm.
screen time after that, to the point where they were barely in the third movie, except for those whenever they were mind controlled. I forget the
Yeah.
exact term, but whenever he had to fight them, and that was most of what they were there for, except for the comedic relief, which worked for some characters like Jackie Chan's monkey.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I am definitely curious to see where they take the story. This the new villain. Am at least they at least have an interesting premise, and that was what I was concerned about. It's like,
Yeah.
what different thing can you do with a villain here? And they have intrigued me with that part, so I applaud them there. Um, and I hope that they're able to stick the landing with this fourth one, because like you said, I did, even though I had problems with the third film, I did like how it ended that kind of first arc, if you will. So even though there were some bumps, I thought it was at least a satisfying ending. So maybe this will be somewhere along the reins of soft reboot territory, but either way,
Hmm.
I am still at the very least interested.
Yeah, I'm gonna be very curious because I think the Furious Five are a very interesting case because again, those first two movies, they are so prominent. They are such a massive part of those films, and it does seem that each movie they become less and less relevant. It is very clear that they don't want to tell a story about those characters. They were always kind of meant to just set Poe up on his journey, and now that he's gone, and we have all these other characters surrounding him. We don't necessarily need them, so like we do know they're in the movie, and like we do know that they are going to be have some sort of role in the thing. um so I'm going to be curious. I said over on Twitter, like, I know they've had a thing in the past, but I wouldn't mind a like Puss in Boots style spin-off for them. Like, I think it'd be really cool to just see them on their journey, have the side mission that they go on, and it like focuses on all of them and not necessarily Poe. Like, I think that could be really fun if they ever got that like opportunity. But we'll see.
If it can be as the same quality as those two Puss in Boots movies, I think we would be in for good stuff. And they had a direct-to-video thing years ago where it kind of showed how the five, came together.
Hmm.
Which it was weird because it was doubly animated. Like you had the regular animation in the movie for like the beginning and the end, but then a more 2D style animation to where everything was very, very cartoon. Like I don't remember if you ever saw it.
Yeah.
I think it was called like Secrets of the Masters. I might be butchering that
Yeah.
title,
Sure.
but yeah, that's what it was. Where it essentially showed how the five came together, and
Hmm.
I would be curious just to kind of get more of them because it doesn't really feel like except for Tigress, really, it doesn't feel like much of them have had arcs over the course of the movies.
Hmm. 100%, 100%. They are mostly just there to boost Poe up, and
Yeah.
I think in one and two, it personally works well. Like I like seeing it, but I think it'd be a lot of fun to see them on their own journey.
Oh yeah.
About the trailer itself, I will be honest, I was a little bit disappointed with the overall trailer. Like
Okay.
I think my expectations were so high for the trailer because again, I love these movies. I think they're really
Yeah.
good. The premise sounds really cool, and I do think this movie's gonna be really, really good. I just don't think it was a very good trailer. I didn't think it was a very um, well-made trailer. It kind of felt like things we've seen out of movie two and things we've seen out of movie three kind of put together, and just the way the trailer was put together. I wasn't personally like super jazzed about it, but I think that's not going to represent what the movie actually is. I think it's going to be a very well done movie. I'm curious what they do. I know a lot of people are mad about Aquafina being in the movie and
Yeah.
her appearance in every film over the last like 4 years or so.
Yeah. I mean, love it or
Um,
hate it, it's there. So
Aquafina is such a weird actor. Like I personally really enjoy her as an actor. Like I know people are triggered by her, but I
yeah.
I think I think I think she gets casted so much because she is like such a like unique actress. Like there's no one in Hollywood that sounds like her. Like she
Yeah,
is the only one. So
yeah,
I definitely get why she keeps getting
yeah.
casted.
It didn't really bother me that much because I don't really have much of an opinion on Aquafina, to be honest. And
Sure.
if it ends up being good, then hey, it ends up being good. So I'll just reserve all judgment completely.
Hmm. Let's jump into some comments here. Someone was saying that the animation didn't look as good compared to the other ones. Would you agree with this? That
Um,
I didn't notice too much of a downgrade.
I mean, I noticed a little bit of a difference from. I honestly started to notice it as early as 3, like from 2 to 3. I noticed a change, and then from 3 to 4, I noticed a little bit of a change, but it wasn't enough to pull me out of the movie completely. It's not like they went
Hmm.
from the way they'd done it in the movies to suddenly having the art style and animation of that Netflix cartoon that I'm forgetting the name of. Um, but yeah, that Kung Fu Panda cartoon that's not canon. It's not like it downgraded to having that level of animation.
Sure.
So I wasn't that bothered by it.
No, I didn't see much of a downgrade personally. I think I was expecting it to look a little bit better though, just because there has been so much of a break from Kung Fu Panda 3 to Kung Fu Panda 4. It's
Yeah.
been what, 8 years or something like that?
Was
Like
it
it's been a very
was,
long time. Seven,
was it
8 years or
was
something.
it was it 2017 when that
It was
third film came out?
2017, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So it's been a long time. I was expecting it to look like a little bit upgraded, but I had no problem with how it looked.
Yeah,
William the Arrow said Furious 5 spinoff would go hard. I agree.
I agree.
Um, Kai said, personally, I enjoyed the TV show more than the movies. Ooh,
Ooh,
interesting.
okay.
I've seen some of the TV stuff. I think with DreamWorks it's so hard to keep up with all the TV they put out for these movies.
Yeah.
Like I've seen the like Nickelodeon ones. And I remember really liking those as a kid. I haven't watched all the like Netflix stuff that they've done. Like I know they recently did a show. I haven't like checked that out yet, but
Yeah, I've
maybe I
seen bits
will.
and pieces of that show here and there, and you know,
Hmm.
it is inherently very campy. But if it's like a kid watching it, or or somebody who grew up with the movies and has connections to those characters, then they'll probably like it. I assume.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, yeah. And I am curious to see with how they used. I mean, I know he was not technically there, but the way they used Oogway in that third movie.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're going to incorporate him into this fourth one at all, especially with spoiler, I guess, in the trailer, but especially with Tai Lung being back
Yeah.
in a sense. I wonder if there's going to be some sort of reunion between him and Oogway, because the only
That'd be fun.
interaction you saw with them on screen was in flashbacks. So it'd be curious to have a
Hmm.
full circle moment with those two.
Yeah, I mean, I hope he's in somewhat of the movie because he's technically been in all three, even though he died in like the first film.
Wait,
So I
was he in the second one?
was he
Well,
not?
I don't, I
Maybe he
don't.
wasn't.
Well, I know they had
He's in
him.
1 and 2. He's in
Yeah,
1 and 3. I know that.
yeah, because they have his thing, like his
Yeah.
little energy that they captured. I know they show like a montage in part 2 of the previous film, and you see him for like a second in that, but that's footage from the first movie, so I don't know if that really
Hmm.
counts.
Sure. Yeah, but I would be curious, especially with him like becoming what like Oogway kind of was. I would not be shocked if he has a cameo towards like the end of the movie or something.
Oh yeah.
All right, moving along to our next topic here. Stranger Things, everyone's favorite Netflix show, it seems. So Stranger Things season 4 could leave certain characters open for spinoff. So there was some information about Stranger Things this last week. They start back filming next month, which I'm personally very excited. Stranger Things is one of my favorite shows. I'm very excited to get more Stranger Things content.
Oh yes.
But we got some information about the this next upcoming season. One being that season 5 feels much more in tone to season 1, where it is about more of like it's about them kind of just hanging out and having fun with these characters that we do have. Are you excited for them to kind of go back to a more season 1 toned season?
Honestly, I think it's really important that they do that for the end of the show, because they've gone, for the
Hmm.
last 2 or 3 seasons now, they've gone bigger and bigger every time, and it's worked for the most part. But if they're ending it, and I even said this too, if with the way that they're ending the show, they don't need any new characters in there. I don't want to see any new
Yeah.
characters in this season because it needs to focus on the core group. Even though you have that classic, it's become a template for the show now. But you have that new character that's introduced at the beginning of the season, then everyone loves them, and then at the end of the season they die. That's become a template for the show. But
Yeah.
I would like it if they just focused on that core central group of characters and really did those kind of season 1 tone moments where you were talking about, because that's what got you to care about the characters in the first place, was just seeing those moments of them interacting. And and if they are following more of that season 1 tone like they've been saying, then maybe they'll start to shift a little bit of focus back towards Will, because he really hasn't had that much focus ever since season 2 ended. And it's been to some people's complaint. I got where he was coming from in season 3, where he had essentially spent 2 years in that limbo, so he didn't get to really grow up in that time like they did. He was kind of still stuck behind, so maturity wise he was still going to be stuck behind them, and I got that aspect of it. Season 4, it got a little bit ham-fisted. The drama with him and Mike, I think I'm like, okay, like, do we really need that much of this, especially considering some of the episodes were over an hour long? But that's one thing I hope they can also reduce, is the episode time, because even though a lot of those episodes were awesome, we don't need a 2.5-hour movie as a TV episode every time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Season 4 was kind of really strange with how they paced them out. Like that final episode, they literally could have put that in theaters and it would have made so much money. It would have been kind of insane.
Would have saved the box office this year.
Oh, I mean, it would have been bonkers.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to be very curious how they do season 5. I don't know. I wrote season 4 here, but like season 5, yeah. I'm curious how we all go about it, what they do with these characters. And we also heard about which characters are getting wrapped up and which characters we could see in the future, which I think is a very interesting conversation. We now know that 11, Dustin, Lucas, and Hopper's storylines will all be done in season 5. Which opens a lot of characters that are not getting wrapped up that I figured would have been officially wrapped up. Yeah. Characters like Mike and Steve were characters that I thought they were going to definitely wrap up in Stranger Things. And they've also opened up about the possibility of more spinoffs, specials, and stuff like that. Is there any character from Stranger Things that you would like to see get their own spinoff?
So I'm going to be honest, I don't really know if, because of the nature of the show, I don't really know if it's needed.
Yeah.
Just because it works as an ensemble show, and not because a character can't hold their own storyline, it doesn't mean they're a bad character necessarily, and they can hold their own self-contained storylines within seasons or episodes. But making a whole spin-off show solely about them, I don't know how you would do that.
Yeah.
But you were talking about some of the characters that they confirmed to have their things wrapped up in season 5. It gets me also curious for, because I don't think they've announced this yet. Correct me if I'm wrong. The fate of Max, for example, I'm really curious to find that out, because on season 4 they left that open-ended. So
sure.
And that, in my opinion, she was the best part of season 4.
Max,
loved what they did with Max in that season. Like I was saying.
Yeah, no, I mean, I loved Max. I almost kind of wish that they committed one way or another with her, though, because I kind of don't like the very openness, like, she died, but actually no, she'll be back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I either would have wished they didn't kill her, or they, because that scene killed me. Like, that was such a heartbreaking
scene of her in the house.
Yeah, like, that might be one of the saddest death scenes I've ever seen, and I can't say that now because it wasn't really a death scene.
Yeah, no. And the thing that got me too was they when they did that fake out earlier in the season, where she gets caught and then runs through the lair and then escapes, that didn't actually get me mad. I loved that entire thing, but it kind of got you worried. It's like, wait, they faked us out this early. Are they actually going to do something when it gets to the end of the season? And turns out they didn't. Yeah,
it's a weird, and I think it's very apparent that they love these characters and they don't want any of them to die, but they do keep doing the thing where they have them die and then bring them back, and it's like, I wonder if we're actually going to get deaths in season 5. I assume a couple will die, based off the characters that they said their characters are done. maybe like a Dustin, but like that would be very hard. Like
Yeah.
Hopper, I don't think you can kill Hopper again. Like I don't think
Again, yeah.
that scene would work again. Maybe 11, like maybe she sacrifices herself for all her friends or something. We'll see.
I think that's a possibility if they do that.
Mm,
Trying to think of anybody else that it would really work for.
yeah.
Maybe Will. I don't know. Like
Yeah, I
maybe.
mean, Will could I could see that for sure too. I know there's a lot of like controversies with that actor currently.
Yeah.
I don't think that they'll recast, but I also wouldn't be like shocked either. So we'll see. Kai said how they teased Steve's death and then didn't do it pissed me off. I think Steve's our Iron Man moment for Stranger Things. I could see Steve dying. I could see like because he's kind of been like our giant like teddy bear character. Like he's been like Mike and 11 have been kind of like the main characters, but everyone's favorite's been Steve. Like everyone loves Steve. Yeah. And I will be heartbroken when he dies. Yeah. Either that or he gets a spinoff. I could see maybe a Steve spinoff. Yeah.
Especially in contrast to how unlikable he was in season 1. And now
it's insane. Yeah. He was supposed to die in the first season, I think.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how they did it, but it was great. Chainsaw in the House. Chainsaw, how's it going?
Oh.
Kai Rex said, I heard there's a backdoor pilot in season 4. They're trying to see if Dustin's girlfriend's family, if that would work. Susie, I have no passion to see more of Susie.
I mean,
I'll be honest.
she's not a bad character, but she's had such a minor role throughout 2 seasons. So
yeah. Not without Dustin. If it's Dustin and Susie, maybe.
Yeah, because the only time where she was without him was the scene where they went and tracked her down in season 4 and asked her for help.
Yeah, I mean, I think she works in very small doses. I don't know how it would work in full, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Robin as well, I wouldn't mind seeing.
Robin is actually a character that I wasn't sure how I would feel about, but then before season 4 came out, I rewatched season 3, and then seeing her in 4, I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm kind of digging her now.
Oh, I love Robin. Yeah, Robin's in like my top 3 characters, I think. William the Arrow says, what do you guys think of the rumor Eddie coming back somehow through the Upside Down? I don't need it personally.
I mean, I get why a lot of people would like it because a lot of people love Eddie, but that death was like such a pivotal moment in that season, and I think if you undo it, then it's going to cheapen the whole ending of season 4.
Yeah, I kind of believe in the same way as Max, where it's like I'd rather either just do it or you don't do it. As much as I loved Eddie, I thought Eddie was awesome. He was a fun character.
Oh yeah.
It's very clear they needed someone to kill off last season. It's like just have Eddie die. Yeah. No one will like him, and then it became everyone's favorite character.
And he gave us Master of Puppets for God's sake. So
100%.
The Metallica
fun stuff.
Fun was going wild.
100%. Yeah, I'm expecting to talk a lot more about Stranger Things in 2024 as they start the film. We get more updates. And I assume it's going to come out 2025 along with every project to ever come out ever.
Yeah, that's going to be a big year.
2025 is going to be nuts.
Yeah, 2024 is just going to be like that transitional period.
I think 2024. I think we're going to get a lot of things of quality in 2024, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of it. Like I think every couple months we'll get a massive thing, and it'll be great. And then we'll have some slow periods, which I'm personally okay with.
And like that's what I was used to growing up. And like you would only get one blockbuster comic book movie like every 2 or 3 years, and they would all be really good for the most part. But you wouldn't get 5, 6, 7 of them in 1 year.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've gotten really spoiled as far as like big blockbusters and like we like 20 years ago we like even this year alone we would not have had this number of stuff we're getting. Yeah. So yeah, it's crazy. Plus, I mean, still some fun stuff coming out.
Oh yeah, and by the way, we have one of the things coming out next month. I'm personally excited for X-Men '97. That's something I'm really looking forward to because
is that next month?
I think it's January 3rd. Yeah.
Oh, for real?
I believe that was the date last time I looked.
I need to hurry up on my rewatch.
as somebody who grew up watching that series every Saturday morning, and that's going to bring back a lot of nostalgia for me. And as someone who met the cast recently, it's just going to bring back a lot of memories that I had as a kid growing up. Mm-hmm. And I'm even sporting the hat from the show too.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, yeah. I mean, that was the first like real superhero thing I ever watched. Like that was my first like exposure to anything. But I didn't remember any of it from a kid. Like I just remembered watching it when I was little. So I've been like rewatching it. I've been doing like 4 episodes a week for the last
Oh
couple
yeah.
months, and it's been great. I've been shocked of how good it is. Yeah, I haven't seen an official.
Let me see if I can pull it up.
The like last time I heard it was just like early 24. So I just assumed it was either going to be February or March because Echo's in like next month as well. So
Yeah.
I don't know if they would want to like double book, but maybe who knows.
I'm seeing different sources that say that. I'm not saying quote me on that, but if it ends up coming, then hey, cool.
I will watch it whenever it comes out. I'm very excited.
I will be there day one.
And that's a topic we'll talk about actually in a couple of minutes. So we have some DCU news. Very exciting. It's the like strikes are over and we're finally getting more DCU stuff. It's been a long time. Sean Gunn will play Maxwell Lord in James Gunn's DC universe. Internet was pretty divisive on this week. This was people that have like really loved all the casting stuff thus far. I've seen some people being like, hey, I don't love this one, which I thought was very interesting. Are you okay with this casting, or is this something that you're not a big fan of?
I mean, I'm neutral, really. I mean, I've liked Sean Gunn and other things that I've seen him in, which happens to be a lot of James's projects. But I thought he's been good in those roles. He's never been a standout for me. I mean, I did like him in the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
And, I'm not, I don't have the same sentiment towards this that, somebody like Zachary Levi had, for example.
That's been a crazy, crazy situation.
Yeah. And there have even been some castings before this that I haven't been like 100% on board with either, but, I'm still obviously going to reserve judgment until I see it. But, for this one, I'm not like, oh yes, good. I'm like, what? Okay. So we'll just see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think like no shade on Maxwell Lord, but I don't care enough to get mad. Like I feel like almost anyone can wear the Maxwell Lord hat. Like I feel like almost anyone can be casted as that like kind of like sleazy businessman type character, Like I feel like I don't know. I think it's fine. I don't have an issue with this. I know a lot of people are mad that he's playing multiple characters now. But this is his only like live action character, so
because he's doing Weasel too, isn't he?
He's doing Weasel, and then another character as well. But again, it's like I don't think it's like a human character. Like I don't think it will be a big issue when they pop up in live action. Yeah. I also do think it's a character that can appear a lot throughout like the DCU. Like it's not like this kind of one-off character. Like he can give his brother a role that is like. He'll keep coming back in other projects and stuff like that.
Yeah, and his brother had a minor role in the Guardians movies. It's not like he was a big heavy.
100%. Yeah. So, I think this is fine. I don't have an issue. It's fine.
I'm personally not that irritated. It's like, you know what? Okay. I mean, as long as it's better than the last Maxwell Lord we had. No disrespect to Pedro Pascal, but that was not the role for him.
Yeah, I don't think he really got a chance to really play that character. So I feel really bad because I would have loved to have seen what he had with that character. But
oh yeah, that would have been interesting. He probably should have just been in a better movie.
Yep. Taj reacts in the house. Darren, is that a Christmas tree hat? It is. It is a Christmas tree hat. Thank you.
You can always expect Darren to come through with the hats.
Maxwell Lord isn't that deep of a character for people to be this 100%.
Yeah, it's not like they announced Sean Gunn to be the Flash or anything.
100%. Yeah, if it was a much bigger role, and that's been like he like casts his wife and stuff too, and people get mad about that. It's like it's the most innocent, like least like issue character possible. Like she plays Z-lister characters that no one even knows.
and they did a similar thing in back in the CW days where I think it was during Elseworlds where they cast Stephen Amell's wife in the crossover that they did, and people were losing it over that too. It's like Nora Freeze is an E-list character. Why are you guys getting so irritated?
Yeah,
like
and they recasted her too, which is crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they recasted her for Batwoman. Yeah, it's like the only time you ever see Nora Freeze most of the time is when she's frozen in a block of ice. So You don't really get anything from an actress that much.
William says he's also playing G.I. Robot in Creature Commandos.
That's
okay,
the other
I
one.
knew it was
Okay, I
two
couldn't
separate
remember.
characters. I
Yeah.
just didn't know what they were. And he's like a robot, so he wouldn't have his face. It would all be voice acting, I assume. So
yeah, and then the same thing with Weasel.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. All right, let's move things along here. Marvel news. Some Marvel games were announced this week.
Boy.
Insomniac Spider-Man 3 and a Blade game over at the Game Awards this past week. Let's start with Blade. I wasn't even watching the awards, and I was just kind of chilling. I'm seeing like my thing on YouTube keep going off about a Blade trailer reaction. I was like, a what? A Blade game? When did this happen? Yeah, they announced at the Game Awards. Did you expect this game at all? I know you're a big gamer, right? So was this something that you were excited about?
So believe it or not, I actually called this. I said whenever their big Marvel announcement happens for their solo project. Sorry if you can hear that in the background. I've got I said it was either going to be Daredevil or Blade. It was going to be one of those two, and so I was right. It was Blade. And I mean, the fact that all those rumors floating about that it's going to be Xbox exclusive, if that's true, I'm not thrilled about that, but I am just excited for the concept of a Blade game in general, because the most love Blade's gotten in video games really have just been the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games from 15 years ago, which I loved. As a kid, I loved playing those as I was growing up, and Blade was awesome in those. And then after that, or not after that, before that, you had Blade popping up in the 90s Spider-Man cartoon, and then the trilogy movies with Wesley Snipes. So I've been a Blade fan for a long time, so this news definitely got me excited. So yeah, I am definitely on the excited train as far as this one goes.
100%, 100%. I just love like new superhero games coming out. I think we're currently in like a renaissance of them. Currently, like Spider-Man is at an all-time high with these games. The Suicide Squad's in a couple months. I know a lot of people aren't excited for that, but it's still happening, and we got a bunch of fun stuff coming. And I will play it if it ever comes to PC, because I do not have an Xbox. Which was the. God, sorry.
I was gonna say I'm on the PlayStation side, but I could play it on PC if it comes to there.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, there was this like roller coaster of emotions, being like, "There's a Blade game." Oh, it's for Xbox. Good for them, I guess. I guess that's what we get for having Spider-Man, right? So
I mean,
we got Spider-Man. We get Blade. God, sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say we had it for 5 years, so
100%. And on the other side of this, if you told me like, hey, pick between Blade and Spider-Man 3, I'm picking Spider-Man 3. As much as I like Blade, you gotta go to Spider-Man 3. Which I don't think anyone was shocked that we're getting a Spider-Man 3. The first two have done amazingly. They teased it. Are you excited for Spider-Man 3?
I am definitely excited for it. Curious to see what sort of direction they could go, especially with this isn't a spoiler anymore. The game's been out 2 months, but with the ending where they teased Norman and Otto, going to be teaming up together. I am excited for that part, but because we already had Otto play such a big role in the first game, I don't want it to be this thing in the third game where it's him and Norman together. I kind of want Norman as Green Goblin, if that's what they presumably end up doing. I want that to be the big threat. And if they do it in a way similar to Spider-Man 2, where it's Kraven and then it's Venom, I wouldn't mind it if they did that, to where it's Ock for a little bit and then it's Green Goblin. I wouldn't mind it if they did something like that. I'm not saying they have to, do to Otto what they did to Kraven. I'm not saying they have to do that, but it could definitely be, a way that they kind of pass off the main villain title at the halfway arc, so to speak.
100%, 100%. I'm not shocked about this at all. Now, we kind of end the game, again, spoilers for the game if you haven't played it. But it seems like Peter's taking kind of more of a backseat, and Miles is kind of like our main Spider-Man. Do you think that this will be how do you think we're going to handle that in the next game? Obviously, Peter's going to be in the game. I don't think anyone would say he's not in the game, but do you think? I would not be completely shocked if maybe the A story is Miles and the B story is Peter, or do you think he's just going to be back to being Spider-Man again?
Oh, I think a way that they could do it, So depending on how much time passes between the second game and the third one, it could be, in that time frame, just say for an example, and I'm just making these numbers up, but say there's a 5-year gap between the second game and the third game.
Yeah.
Miles has been Spider-Man for that entire time. And then say in the third game, something so big happens that Peter is needed to get back out there into the field and be calling the shots, because it could either be, so big to where Miles physically can't do it himself, or it could be, this existential crisis that he's going through where he has no faith in himself. So it could work either way there.
Sure. Yeah, and like the way I kind of interpreted the ending, and I know a lot of people are saying, oh yeah, he's just not Spider-Man anymore, and that's not necessarily how I took the, like, I always kind of assumed like Miles is the main Spider-Man, but I always assumed if the event was big enough, Peter would just put the suit back on and help him. Like, if Miles literally needs help, he can call Peter and be like, yo, Peter, I need your help. Like, there's a 10-foot tall robot attacking the city. I can't do this, man. Like, I've never thought that's kind of what they would do.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I'm going to be very curious. See ya.
Yeah. I am definitely interested.
Go ahead.
I'm just interested for the concept.
Sure.
And also, I think people are kidding themselves if they think that that in like the Wolverine game, for example, if they are thinking that Yuri's Spider-Man is going to pop up in that, I would not get your hopes up, because I've seen that question going around the internet a lot too.
Sure.
I mean, it would not be the first time that Spider-Man's cameoed in a Wolverine game, but still.
Yeah. It seems like they're doing their separate things. Which I'm totally okay with. Kai said, if they do a time jump, do you think they'll bring in Mayday Parker or have MJ be pregnant with Mayday? I would not be completely shocked.
Maybe. I mean, they did introduce, what is her name? Cindy Moon at the end of the second game.
Yeah.
So, and like, that's going to be another thing that they'll have to develop too, because, they can't just throw that character in and then not pay it off at all. So she's probably going to be a big story element too.
100%. Now, I do want to bring it up because there has been a lot of rumors this week and a lot of people are talking about it. And again, rumors, I don't like to say this is fact, not fact at all, that there have been a lot of talks on Twitter, especially about a potential Spider-Verse game, which has been, like, people have talked about that for several years now, and I've always been like, no, why would they do that? But it does seem like it is a possibility now. Would that be something that you would be, like, down with them doing?
I wouldn't be against it. I mean, it's not something that I'm necessarily pining for or that I necessarily need to happen. I'd be interested if they announced that they were doing it, but I think just the big buzz for a Spider-Verse game is really just riding off of the popularity of the films, which, granted, it's definitely warranted. I get it because of how successful those films were, and they're both great movies. But I don't know, because especially if they were going to do it in like a multiplayer format, with that Last of Us game that just got canceled and it was all about multiplayer. I don't know if this would make it much further in the development process than that one did.
Yeah. I guess I just have a hard time thinking like how you would do that. Like, what would it all entail? Like,
how would they be different enough from each other?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of like the idea of like, maybe at the end of one of these games, we see how this Peter gets into, like, how he gets in the mix of the movies and stuff. Like, that could be kind of fun.
Yeah.
If you literally see him, like, being recruited, right? So, like, that could be fun. But I don't, like, beyond that, I don't know how you would do that. Would it be canon to the movies? Would it not be? I don't know.
I think that appearance from him in the film was just a fun little thing they did and said, "Hey, this is out there." But I wouldn't expect them to actually go further with that. It was just them saying, "Hey, this is here. We acknowledge it." Yeah, but they're I at least think that they're going to do their own separate things, which is how they should do it.
Mm-hmm. Kai said, I don't think a Spider-Verse game, but maybe it's a Spider-Man 2099, like a prequel game. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, we had that kind of buddy cop game about 10 years ago. You had Edge of Time, and then even before that, you had a technical Spider-Verse game. You had Shattered Dimensions.
Yeah,
which I feel like both of those games are really underrated and were a little bit ahead of their time because, I mean, while they were linear, like they were linear beat 'em ups, but what I was just talking about earlier with having the Spider-Man different, they did a good job of having all 4 of those Spider-Men be different from each other because, yes, they utilized Spider-Man's core abilities, but because of the world they were placed in, they all got unique attributes for that. And they did a good job of it doing just those 4 and then bringing back all those Spider-Man alumni to voice them, which was a great touch for me because, I grew up watching, the obviously Spider-Man the animated series, Amazing Friends. So that was a great touch for me there. And then a lot of people don't know this too. I'm just going to throw the fun fact in there. Neil Patrick Harris, the guy who voiced the main Spider-Man in that game, he was the Spider-Man of an MTV show from 20 years ago that not a lot of people watched. It only got
Oh
one
yeah.
season, sadly, but it was one of the more mature Spider-Man shows that they made out there, and it's on Disney Plus if you want to go search it.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was sad that it only got one season, but I
Sure.
don't want. By the way, have you finished your watch of Spectacular Spider-Man yet?
I have. Yeah, I'm done. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
No, I just love the show, but the ending is just heartbreaking.
Oh yeah. It's
Yeah.
man, so many good shows are
Yeah.
canceled, and
Yeah.
so many of those shows I'm like, bring them back now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
chances of that happening, probably not. But
because that's what I was saying. I would recommend that Spider-Man show to you, but I don't want you to experience that pain again. Like
yeah,
twice was enough for me.
yeah, that era of just so many of those shows just being canceled, it sucks.
And then the ones that a lot of people dubbed to be mediocre got to run on for like 4 years.
Yeah, 100%.
That Marvel's Spider-Man on Disney XD, that was terrible. And that
The
ran
Ultimate
for,
Spider-Man, right? Man, like that's I hate that.
Oh no,
What?
I was talking about the one after that. Ultimate Spider-Man was
sure.
fine. Like it,
Yeah.
it's when it started, I hated it, but it got better over time. But the one after it released in like 2017, it was just called Marvel's Spider-Man. From day one, I was like, this is awful, and I've never gone back to see it.
Sure, yeah. I mean, that's always tough when like I know Teen Titans kind of went through that same thing where like you grow up on like that was your like version of that cartoon, and then a couple years later they do it again. Like the Ninja Turtles do that too, and like each one of us have our own versions of those characters, and like even if they're not bad, it's like well you took away the one I love to get this new one that I don't love. Like it's always so hard. It's always really, really hard.
Now, thankfully, X-Men hasn't had like a bad run yet. Like they had the 90s show, they had Evolution, and then they had Wolverine and the X-Men. So they're 3 for 3 right now as far as that goes.
And then you have the movies.
Yeah, the movies were almost 3 for 3 as far as the original ones go. But honestly, those first 3 should not have been called X-Men. They should have been called Wolverine and the X-Men because it was about Wolverine and the X-Men were a supporting cast.
Yep. Kai said I enjoyed Ultimate Spider-Man for the most part. That was unfortunately, and I'm a bit younger than you, I think. That was kind of one of my first like adaptations of Spider-Man, unfortunately. So I do kind of have a soft spot for it, but like as I've gotten older, I can look back at that and being like, there are definitely better versions of that character.
And I don't want to take that away from anybody who like, that was their first iteration to it because for me, for example, like my first live action, or a lot of people's first live action iteration of Spider-Man was Tobey Maguire. And a lot of people will point out the issues with him, and I'm not going to say that there's not any issues in those movies, but because there are, but there are just a lot of ones that I have a big soft spot for, and I don't think there's necessarily ever been a bad Spider-Man portrayal. There have been one or two movies that have not been great, but there's never been a bad portrayal. Like it's never been at the fault of the actor.
Yeah, and I kind of think that's like the wonder of Spider-Man is that each one's kind of great, and you could just pick one, and that's an okay choice. Like Andrew's probably my Spider-Man, not because I grew up on it, because I actually binged all the Spider-Man movies in COVID. Like I didn't grow up on any of them, so like that was such a weird feeling of like you can just pick which one you like the most without any prior history to any of them.
Yeah.
And Andrew was just the one I feel like I like felt the most with. Like those movies suck. I don't like those movies, but him as Spider-Man is so good.
I think the first movie is actually a little bit underrated. I enjoy the first film. The second one, not so much. Both Tom and Andrew's second film, I do not like really at all.
Oh, yeah? Sure. That's fair.
And it was so funny during the No Way Home screenings where you have people on my side that are cheering when all of the Raimiverse characters came in and feeling all that nostalgia of 20 years. And then there were a bunch of kids to my left that were like, what's going on? Why's everybody screaming? it was just funny. I've never been in a theater where that happened, where
Yeah.
I've been on that side, and then like I wasn't talking down to anybody, but I was like, it was
Sure.
just so fun to experience that.
Yeah, I wish I had an experience with that movie. It like there was like 5 people in my theater. Like it was not
5?
there was like 5 people. We live in a really small town, so a lot of people just don't go to the movie.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know, like sometimes I think like there will be a packed theater for thing like Endgame was such a great experience. Like it was
Yeah.
packed and everyone that moment when he catches when he
Yeah,
catches
the
the hand.
hammer, yeah.
Oh my god, like
Yeah.
the like the
Yeah.
screams. Oh, it's
Yeah.
so good.
I didn't think that theater experience would be tops for me, until No Way Home came out,
That's
because
great.
I mean, and it was just funny because I had people asking me, they were like, "Why did your theater go nuts?" I'm like, "Okay, so who's your favorite movie character?" And I said, "Just pick one." I said, "Imagine you didn't see them in that part for 15 years, and then they were back.
Yeah.
You got a little
Yeah.
bit more time with them." So that's
Yeah,
why
no,
that
it's
was so
amazing.
special, and that's what makes the theater experience special. Like if you
Yeah.
saw it sitting at home by yourself, yeah, you'd still have fun with it. You'd like seeing everybody pop up, but it's not the same as seeing it in a room full of people who are just as excited as you.
100%. I was so devastated because, like, in my theater, people reacted to both, Toby and Andrew, and that was great. But when Matt showed up,
Charlie
dead
Cox.
silent, dead silent,
Yeah.
and I'm the only one. I had to hold back. I was like, "Oh my!" And my friend's like, "What are you like? Who is that?" And I was like, "No, it's Matt Murdock, you idiot!"
Yeah. Yeah. I had to explain that to people sitting next to me, and it was funny because someone shouted out in our theater. I don't know if you've seen the movie Stardust, but he's in that movie too. Someone recognized him as the character from that instead of Daredevil. I just thought
That's
that was
really
hilarious.
Oh, that's so sad. I'm excited for the day, and I think it's coming that people start dressing up as Daredevil. Like
Oh yeah,
he's going to like we're getting there. Like no one knows him yet. Like no one like the masked people they don't know him yet, but they will. He's coming. The like
yeah,
Renaissance is. I mean, this year alone. I don't mean to jump ahead, but like this year alone, we have 2 appearances from him, and I'm very. Or next year, I mean, we
yeah,
got two
yeah.
appearances from him. So I'm ready. And that works for a pretty nice segue. Animated Disney Plus projects. This came at a surprise this week. They had announcements for three. I guess not announcements. We 3 updates on
Yeah.
Disney Plus stuff. The first one being a animated prequel seeming to Black Panther in the MCU. So this was not announced prior, right? Like this was
No,
new news,
yeah, this is
which
completely
was
new.
very exciting. I'm very excited for this. And now seemingly it's a prequel to the MCU. We're seeing some of the past Black Panthers that go around the world and collect stuff, which sounds very exciting to me. I think the most exciting thing about this is like it was never announced before, and they're like, "Hey, this thing that we just announced, it comes out next year. Get ready." And with the MCU, we don't get to do that. Like normally, we have 4 or 5 years in like having to wait from when they announce a thing to when it's actually going to come out. Some things we've been waiting 5, 6 years and it hasn't come out yet. Like I like the like Rhodey movie that's supposed to come out. That was announced like 3
Yeah.
years ago. We know. I don't think they filmed it. Like
Oh, the
like
Armor Wars thing.
and
Oh
like
yeah,
Fantastic Four and Blade they announced 3 or 4 years ago. Like I going forward, and I know there was a lot of stuff behind the scenes issues. I want
yeah,
more of this. I want them to be like, hey, we're announcing the thing comes out in like a year and a half. I hope you're ready. I know that's hard because they have to film stuff and it's
yeah.
hard to hide stuff, and I get they can't always do that. But I hope in future we get to do more of stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And I think people will be more understanding if they announce it when it's closer to being ready.
yes, 100%. Are you excited for this? Do you have kind of like
Um,
any expectations for this?
so I'm actually really excited for this one for multiple reasons. One, I love the lore of Black Panther. It's been like one of my favorite bits of Marvel to explore. Like next to Spider-Man and X-Men,
Yeah,
which were my foundations, and that's what I grew up with. I always loved the lore of how the Black Panther is not a person; it's a mantle. And if we're gonna see the kings prior to T'Challa, where you have his father, you obviously have T'Chaka, his granddad Azari, and
yeah,
it would be cool if they went more on the comics route of the trials of the Black Panther. Because if anybody doesn't know, the way that you essentially, or that one would have gotten the title of Black Panther in at least some of the older comics, first you had to fight a bunch of Wakandan warriors and then win, and then go out and find this like heart-shaped mineral that I'm forgetting the name of, but you had to find that, and then through a lot of other trials and tribulations, then you got named the Black Panther. So if they take that kind of route from comics history and explore that, that could be a good prequel series. And you guys might not know this either, but there was a Black Panther animated show that I think only went for one season, but
Oh wow.
it was around like 15 years ago. And they even had Storm in the show, actually.
Oh wow.
And,
Okay.
and yeah, it felt like not a lot of people knew about that show when it was on. Because whenever I would bring
Mhm.
that up to people at school, they'd be like, "What? What are you talking about?" I'm like, "This." And multiple people asked me if that was Batman, which just made me roll my eyes. But yeah, I've always been a fan of Black Panther. Especially the character of T'Challa, which we won't be seeing more of in MCU, sadly. But
Yeah.
it's definitely something that I'm looking forward to, because when I saw this today, I'm like, you know what? I'm here for it. And since
Yeah.
it's close to being ready, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Sorry,
No.
sorry for that little lore tangent there.
No, that's completely okay. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm gonna be very curious, kind of when it comes out as well. Kind of where it fits in like the schedule.
Oh
And
yeah.
like none of these projects we kind of have dates for, so it's very exciting.
Mhm.
And then we have Spectacular Spider-Man, which was changed from Spider-Man freshman year, and is also announced to be coming out next year. So that's 2 extra MCU projects we're getting next year. Which I'm gonna be kind of curious how that kind of goes out. Because a big talk over the last couple months or so, since they pushed back Captain America 4, was, oh, there's only like 1 or so like MCU projects next year. We went from 1 movie to what, 3 Disney Plus projects to now 5 Disney Plus projects and 1 movie.
And one movie, yeah.
Yeah, which I again, as like a content creator who loves talking about this stuff weekly, that's very exciting for me. Now we have more stuff to talk about,
Mhm.
more stuff to geek out about. I do think that break was kind of really important, and maybe it's still fine because there's only 1 movie. Like that's still a break for like your casual audiences. So thoughts on that? Are you happy that there's more, or do you wish there was more of a break?
Um, I mean, the concept of there being more, I mean, is always going to be kind of just inherently exciting. Like you want there to be more of
Yeah,
what you love. Um,
yeah,
but I hope they're not going to fall into the same trap that they did during Phase 4, where they released so many projects that were just, a lot of them were run of the mill. They weren't that
yeah.
great. I'm not to say a lot of them were bad. There were some that were
Hmm.
bad, but a lot of them were just very, very average. And
Sure.
when a lot of their projects prior to Phase 4, they were spaced out a little bit, but there was more of a consistency in there. To where, like, yes, there were some bumps along the way, especially early on with things like the second Iron Man and the second Thor. Like those were definitely some bumps, but now there's just a lot more of not high highs and low lows, but just a lot of middle ground. So I hope they don't fall into that trap again.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna be very. I'd like, and again, I think it's a very interesting lineup because even though a lot of these are technically MCU, a lot of them aren't like prime MCU. Like
Yeah.
Spider-Man's like a what if type story; it's off on its own. X-Men, for now at least, is like a Elseworld type thing that's kind of off on its own. Black Panther is a prequel. So a lot of these are like even Deadpool. I assume is going to start in the Fox universe and then move over.
Yeah.
So like that's not even like prime current day
Nope.
MCU. Which is, so that leaves Agatha and Echo as like the only kind of like current day MCU
Yeah.
projects, which is
Yeah.
kind of insane to think about.
Yeah.
Out of all the projects.
Yeah. You might not want to say the subtitle for Agatha, because they'll probably change it while we're here talking. Because they've done it like 4 times.
This is the 4th one. I didn't add that as one of our things, but
Yeah.
I before thought that was like a mistake on their part. They keep changing it. By the 4th one, I was like, oh, this is on purpose. Like they're clearly doing a bit where like you can't trust her and that it keeps changing, and I hope they
Yeah.
implement that into the actual show. Like I love the idea that like their title card, it's all of them. Like it like rotates through them all until it gets
Yeah.
to like the final one at the
Yeah.
end, kind of
Yeah.
like what like Agents of Shield did with their logos and stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah.
Like
Yeah. That's what
I,
I was wondering if they were going to do that with the Deadpool movie, to where the title of the official movie was just going to be Untitled Deadpool Sequel.
that'd be funny. Yeah.
I would not put that past them at all. And then
Um.
they're not going to market Wolverine in the title at all.
Yeah, that'd be funny.
That's going to be
Um.
another big moment. That's unfortunately going to have been spoiled for people, so it won't be that big of a surprise. But it's still going to generate a lot of buzz. I know that much.
Yeah, I I hope there's at least some stuff that we don't know about going in. I hope, like, I know there's been a big topic. We haven't talked about it too much on this channel, but, like, last couple weeks, there's been a lot of spoilers, a lot of leaks. Ryan Reynolds has been very, like, proactive about just being like, hey, don't do that. That's silly. Like, if we enjoy the movie and don't leak it. And it's very, I think it's a very hard line to walk. People who like to talk about this stuff, it's like, yeah, we like to talk about stuff that comes out, but should we talk about things that weren't officially put out? Like, is it ethical to talk about these photos? The photos that were leaked recently, like the first couple I get, like, you know, but like this last one is like, that would have been a really fun scene to see in the movie.
Like the ones that reveal characters, like those don't need to be leaked.
You know what would be really funny? If they like proactively edited the movie and that scene's happened and like Ryan Reynolds just walked out and he's like, hey, I know y'all saw this from the leaks. We're cutting this from the movie now and doing something new. And they just like, how brilliant would that be?
That would be brilliant if that's what they're doing. Because
that would be hilarious.
They did a similar bit in one of the trailers for, I think it was the second movie, where they showed Cable and it was really bad VFX on his arm. And they paused the trailer. He goes, why are the visual effects not done on this? So if they had a similar bit like they did there, I would love that. I doubt that's what they're doing, but it'd be hilarious if that was the actual plan.
Oh yeah, I'm so excited for what that movie has. Like, there's gonna be so many good like meta jokes about like changing studios and like the current state of the MCU and like there's so much goodness that's gonna be in that movie.
It's gonna be hard to tell whenever like I don't know what my most anticipated Marvel project is for next year, like whether it's, you know, X-Men 97 because I grew up on the original show, or whether it's this Deadpool 3. So it's hard for me to tell right now.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm very curious. We also have What If Season 3 here that I do want to bring up, which was technically announced a while ago. Like, I remember at least being rumored or like confirmed a while ago, but it was officially confirmed. It's happening. Hopefully sooner. Yeah, Season 3 is happening. Okay. Yeah. Did I say 2?
I think you said 2.
Okay. Well, 2's happening, guys. No. Yeah, 2 comes out a couple weeks, and then Season 3. I'm wondering when that comes out because I assume before like your Secret Wars and stuff like that.
That's what I'm gonna guess is before then.
Yeah, I'm gonna be very curious what they do with Season 3. I know a lot of people aren't too happy going into Season 2. A lot of people are like, "Hey, I don't like the concepts. I don't think they're very good." Which I think that's fair. But I'm kind of waiting to see what they actually do with them before I say, "Hey, I don't think this is a good concept." Because again, like just their pitches, I would agree. I think a lot of them sound kind of boring or bland, but I think they could do some cool things with them.
I try not to judge something based on just the concept alone, because, you know, if I did that, I'd never go to see any movie.
Sure, 100%.
Oh yeah, he's not wrong. The Deadpool test footage got leaked, and then that resulted in the movie. So.
Yeah, true. I don't know. I feel like we shouldn't, like, as that is true, that he's also an actor and he did what he could to get that movie made.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, he's essentially been trying at that for a really long time, because if you watch the third Blade movie that's got him in it, that's essentially a prototype of what his Deadpool was. Even though that movie wasn't great, he was basically doing prototype Deadpool as Hannibal King.
Sure. But with that being said, we're kind of moving into our main big topic of this episode, is our favorite superhero moments of 2023. So I'll be honest, I think that 2023 has been a very, very good year for superhero content. Like, there's obviously been some hiccups, there's obviously been projects that I have loved over others, but like, I mean, Spider-Verse and Guardians and Ninja Turtles and Blue Beetle and Spider-Man 2, like Loki, and there's been so much good stuff that has come out this year. And now we're going to be talking about some of our favorite moments from the year, if that's from a TV show, a movie, or a video game. You guys in the comments can also totally start talking about some of your favorite moments in the comments. We'll pick them up. We'll talk about those as well, if you don't have them on our list as well. So with that being said, let's just jump into our favorite moments. Jake, what's your first moment that you would like to talk about?
So the first one I wanted to bring up is actually from The Flash, the movie, not the show.
The movie. Interesting.
Yeah, the movie. Yeah, I didn't expect this when I was putting the list together, but I'm like, you know what? I have to put this here. It is the moment whenever they go to, I think it's Russia, and you have
Hmm.
that whole big action scene with Keaton's Batman there in the plant just taking names. Because, as somebody who grew up watching Keaton movies on DVD, it really brought me back to that time. And especially, even though there was a little bit of CG done in the scenes, it just made his Batman look really cool. Now, is it as good as Affleck's warehouse scene? No, but it's pretty damn close. Um,
Yeah.
and the fact that like he was actually able to move his head now versus back in the day where it was just doing this constantly.
Yeah.
It was impossible for him to move. They just made him look really, really awesome in that scene, and he was a standout of the movie for me. I did expect that going in, but
Yeah.
they just made his Batman look awesome in that movie, and it really brought me back to during those times whenever I watched those movies growing up, because he still felt like the same Batman. He didn't feel like, oh, like
Yeah.
we're gonna put this actor here, but he's gonna go completely out of character. He still felt like that Batman from 30 years ago. So I liked that part of it a lot. So that's my first one.
Yeah, no, that's a very good pick, and I think, like I'm on record saying that I was not a big fan of this movie, that I wasn't a huge Flash film fan. I thought that movie had a lot of
Yeah,
problems,
same
but
here.
it I don't think the actors were ever at fault for this movie not being good. Like, I think Ezra Miller, controversies aside, I think they did a really good job in that role. I think Sasha Callie as Supergirl was so good. I loved her in that role as well.
Yeah,
It's very unfair what's happening with her. Her
yeah,
getting that one
that's a
movie
little
and then
bit
getting kicked out, and like
sad.
I get why they're doing someone new, but also it hurts because she was so excited.
Yeah,
And then Michael Keaton being back, and you
yeah,
can tell he's
yeah.
happy to be
Oh yeah.
back, and he's happy to play that
Yeah.
character, and he's having fun.
You can tell he looks a lot better and happier in this movie compared to apparently how he felt on the set of Batgirl, where they really were not doing his character any favors. um, and
Yeah,
and I didn't necessarily love this Flash movie either. So like you said, controversies aside, I have honestly always thought Miller was miscast in the role. He just
sure,
didn't scream the Flash to me, and even before all the nonsense happened.
and I still agree. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you would have told me that that was Wally West, there's a
Hmm.
small chance I could buy it, but not Barry Allen. I still thought the movie itself was okay. I mean, it's a
Hmm.
very safe story to go with, which is Flashpoint. It's easily the most recognizable Flash story out there. Do I think it should have been the first movie? No, but
No.
it's a safe one to go with. But the big reason why I was attending it is honestly just because I saw all the stuff that made Keaton look good, and I was honestly interested to see what this new approach with Supergirl was going to be like. And I really liked it, honestly. I really liked how they
Yeah.
did Sasha in that movie.
Yeah, yeah, I think the like Supergirl and Batman stuff were the best stuff with that movie,
Oh yeah,
which kind of sucks because it's a Flash movie.
yeah, and
You
it is.
kind of,
Yeah,
Flash. It really sucked because I was trying to go through and think about like because I wanted to include the Flash movie somewhere on the list because like there's some cool stuff in the moment. And I was just like, I can't think of one that I that I liked enough to put on this scene. At least one
yeah,
that has aged up until this point. But
yeah.
yeah, it
That's
sucks.
that's the moment where, like, for those 5 minutes, I genuinely had no complaints. The other
Yeah.
2 hours and 35 minutes, that's a different story. But
I mean, I will say, like, I did just enjoy seeing the Flash on like a big screen. Like,
yeah,
I've
I
never
mean,
got to see, like, I didn't see the like Justice League movies in theaters or anything, so it was cool just seeing the Flash run in live action, like on a big screen for the first time ever. Like, just for that alone, it made me happy
yeah.
that it
Spotty,
exists. But
spotty CGI aside,
hi, Connor, how's it going?
yeah,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
not there was not great VFX in that movie, but still,
I, yeah. I mean, I do really like the opening stuff where he's like running to get his breakfast and
yeah.
stuff. Like,
I,
I
I'd
think it looks
say
silly, but
I'd say the visuals probably peaked there. Just I don't know, narrative wise, that whole scene makes no sense when you think about it.
yeah.
Because with literal days having passed with that whole Justice League sequence and then what Barry does afterwards, there's no way that the
Mhm.
guy just finished making that food.
Yeah.
There's no way that that adds up. But we're gonna get off that. What is your first pick for moments in this
My
year?
first pick, I'm gonna get this one out of the way because I have a feeling you might have it on your list. And while we're talking about the Flash, maybe not, who knows? I have the Flash, season 9, obviously episode 10, and that is just the Nora Allen death full circle moments.
Yeah.
In The Flash. This is a moment people have been waiting for since season 1. A moment, I'll be honest, I did not think was happening. I thought they were just not going to touch this moment at all. I think, and I made a rule on mine personally. I was like, I only want to pick one moment from a project. Like, I didn't know if I wanted to choose episode 9 or episode 10, because both were really, really good.
Yeah.
And I had to do episode 10, because I think what they did in that episode with Barry and with Thawne, and how it came full circle, and how we get to see the true origins of both Thawne and Barry, the Barry that we knew from season 1, all come full circle. Easily one of the best moments from the show. I made me tear up a little bit of how good it was, and why couldn't the rest of the season be like these 2 episodes? And made me remember why I love The Flash. It's like, the show I love is back. What the hell?
Yeah, like those 2 episodes almost make the season worse, because it's like finding it's like finding 2 diamonds in a giant pile of shit.
Yeah, oh my gosh, it was, oh, what a rough season. But yeah, no, that episode I just have to give it to that scene. I love that episode a lot, and again, just for those 2 episodes alone, I think the season's worth it. The season's worth it for me.
I was so happy that they finally got Matt Letcher's flashback, or his reverse flashback.
Yeah,
I was finally so happy with that, because, and I said this for years, Tom Cavanaugh was great at playing Thawne in season 1, in any moment where Barry time traveled to season 1. But not only did it not make sense for him to play the character outside of that time period, I don't think he ever pulled it off afterward either. Especially in, seasons, 6 through 9, when they changed showrunners. I felt like he constantly overacted the role of Thawne, and it just got so cartoonish, especially in the final arc in the finale. It just got so campy. It's like, this is a shell of what made Thawne so good in season 1. But all the Matt Letcher appearances, not counting what they did in season 8, where they had that weird good guy arc, but whenever he appeared in seasons 3, 2, and then in 9 at the end, those all felt like Thawne, and I was just so glad we got him back one more time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I personally have a hard time choosing a favorite Thawne. Like, I love both Tom and Matt so much. I do think I almost favor Matt now, though, because I do think we did get so much of Tom. It's easy to be like, well, but it's like, it's unfair, because Matt didn't have enough time to be bad. Like, I think, like, if Matt was back for like all 9 seasons, we probably would be tired of Matt as well. But we just had so much Tom, and Tom is great. Like, I'm never mad when Thawne shows up on The Flash, even if it is kind of like a bit of a burnout. Like, I think he always does a great job, and I think what he's given, despite it maybe cringe sometimes, like I know the end of season 8 when he has that giant black suit on, and he's like, and I was like, that's a bit much.
That was not great. That was a little hard to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, but again, I don't think it's ever Tom's fault. Like, I always enjoy when he's back.
I always like Tom as an actor and what he brings. He's just not always directed well.
Yeah, I kind of hated what they did with him in the last episode as well.
The last episode really pissed me off.
Yeah, I could go on a tangent about my problems with season 9, but I've done that enough on the show.
Yeah, we've done that enough, and so we've also done that enough on Council.
Yes. Jake, what's your second pick?
So my number 4 is from another DCCW show from this year. I'm going with the Superman Doomsday fight from the end of Superman and Lois season 3. Oh my God, that was great. And the season was a little light on action up to that point, and not that it was necessarily bad, because they had such good storytelling, with Bruno and Pia, and with obviously Lex showing up here and there, but they built up to that Doomsday fight, and damn it if it didn't feel earned. And it was funny because they used the same plotline template from Batman v Superman, where they had a dead Kryptonian body, and then they made that body into Doomsday, and the one at the head of that creation was a very different version of Lex Luthor than what we've had in the past. So they used the same template twice, but this one did it so much better, because not only did Doomsday look more like Doomsday, but you'd gotten so much more time with this version of Superman, and you cared about him a lot. I mean, I did like Henry when he was directed well, but he barely got any exposure. And for a TV budget, they really went all out with that fight. I mean, that looks better than a lot of movies.
Yeah.
And they just ended the season on such a banger episode. I mean, as soon as the title came out, where it was like, what kills you makes you stronger, I'm like, wait, this is a Superman show. It has kill in the title. I bet Doomsday's here. And then, yeah, he was, but they paid it off. They really did. I don't know if I took one from you or not, but
yeah, that was also in my top 5, and I think it had to be. And like I mean, just the build up to that moment, like Doomsday. We were talking about Doomsday all season. We streamed almost every episode of Superman and Lois this season. We talked about it every episode, and the theories that we crafted, like we had seen some like set photos from something where like, could this be setting up a Doomsday? And the constant talking about what Lex Luthor was doing, but the whole time at the back of my head is like, it'd be really cool if it's Doomsday, but the back of my head saying, no, it's CW. We're not doing Doomsday. Don't get your hopes up. We literally the setup from season 2 of it, like we're being, it's not, like Doomsday's coming. Holy shit, they said it's coming.
Like, they did that at like the start of season 2.
Yeah, and they're like, it's actually him. But no, he actually turns into Doomsday. They were right the whole time.
Like they used Bizarro,
yeah. And just the build up to the episode of like, what is Lex doing to him? Wait, he's not dying. Wait, and they the shot where they pan down on him and it's just giant creature, and it's like those moments in my head are up there as some of my favorite CW like reactionary moments of the yelling at my TV. It's like they did the thing.
And they just had some of the best visuals in that episode too. Like when he puts him on that giant spike and then punches him to the damn moon. I'm like I'm really loving this. Like I'm actually loving this now. I mean, I'd really liked the season up to that point, but man, they ended it in a good way.
I'll be honest, man. Like, I'm very, very, very glad season 4 is happening.
Oh yeah.
But as a fan, like as far as just iconic moments go, there's a part of me that'd be how cool would that be if that was your final shot of the show? It's just like, I
mean, that would have been cool, but it would have
pissed me off.
It would have been so frustrating if it ended like that.
I think it would need to end in a much more hopeful manner. Like my pitch for it would be like the underminer in like the Incredibles movie. Like you wrap up the season, and the final thing is like a monster is attacking the city, and Superman's like, I gotta go, and you just see him run right towards. It's a very hopeful ending, not like a he might die ending. You know what I mean? It's just like an Easter egg kind of thing to end off the season.
And you're kind of like you saw with Flash, where he's just on a run.
He's running. Yeah. Kai said, do you guys think they will follow through and do Death of Superman? So this is a really good question. Something we've all been kind of thinking about.
Yeah.
I've said on here, I think Superman Lois could do a phenomenal Death of Superman story.
Oh, yeah.
I think these actors and in a show like style, it could be really good. But now that we've lost budget, we've lost most of our cast members, and it's the final season, no.
And there's only 10 episodes? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that's how they were going to end the season with Death of Superman. I thought that's what they were going to do. I'm glad they didn't, especially considering how long of a wait it's been. But if they would have given, if they would have had more, more time and more of a budget, I feel like they could have executed it phenomenally.
Yeah, 100%. I there's still part of me that kind of wants it, especially with like Superman dies and Lex is like after Lois and they have to go undercover because there's no Superman to like protect. Like, oh my god, like you could do such a good Death of Superman story. Like you have all the pieces are there. They just can't do it now because of what has happened. But I have a feeling we're gonna wrap up Doomsday very quickly. Hopefully not off screen, but also I would not be shocked if it's off screen as well.
Yeah, I mean, because of budget, I don't know how much you'd be able to show him.
Yeah, I hope they at least spend like 5 minutes wrapping it up because I know people are going to be very mad with it.
Yeah, I mean, if they take the same approach that they did in season 3, where they're a little light towards the build up to Doomsday, and then use budget on that, like maybe they could use a chunk of the budget in the beginning, and then maybe be a little light for a while and just focus on the storytelling and the character interactions. And then you get all the big stuff at the end. So that's how they could do it. And I was even talking about this with Canada Graphs, but because I talked about how good, the show has been. And he said, just remember that Arrow and Flash are also great and revered in their early seasons. And I said, that's true. But because Superman and Lois is ending with its 4th season, it won't have the chance to overstay its welcome and get stale like Flash did. At least Arrow was able to pick itself back up. Flash, in my opinion, with the exception of 1 or 2 episodes here and there, didn't do that. Sadly, that was sad. But this show I don't think will get stale because it has, it only has so many episodes left and they're ending on their own terms. So they're not going to have a legend situation where it just never gets resolved,
Yeah.
but they're at least going to have an ending, and the show won't overstay its welcome.
100%, 100%.
So what's
Um,
your next one?
oh, well, it's actually your turn to go next. Oh no, wait,
Oh,
no, it is my turn to go
and
next.
I
I'm
said
sorry, I'm
this.
sorry. I'm sorry. All right, my next one might be shocking, and that's from Shazam: Fury of the Gods, which is
Okay.
a movie a lot of people don't like. A lot of people really don't dislike this movie. It was one of my favorites of the year, actually. I really enjoyed this movie. I saw it twice in theaters. I still somewhat don't get all the hate it gets. Like I get it has its problems, but I don't think it's like this awful piece of cinema that people make it out to be. But it's towards the end, and that's when Billy is about to fight off the gods, and he goes to his parents. He's like, "Hey, this is what's going on. I gotta go." And he has to go back to human. He has to go back to being Kid Billy, and he has to talk to his mom. And there's this really, really sweet moment with him and his mom. It's like, "Hey, man, I love you. Be careful. Come back to me, Billy." And like in the theater, I'm like tearing up. Like this is a really, really good scene, and I think that scene. And I know there's some issues with like Kid Billy in this movie and how it like transitions from like the like two and what people kind of think about how they balance those two and the humor and stuff. But I thought that scene represents kind of like what this character is all about. Like he is the superhero and he has to save hundreds of lives, but also he is a kid and he
Yeah.
needs this like stuff from his mom. Like he needs to hear that she loves him one last time before he potentially goes to sacrifice himself. And I thought that scene was really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, there were individual scenes in the movie that I liked. Just as a whole, I mean, it was a little bit frustrating of watch just because you knew that it inevitably wasn't gonna matter in the grand scheme
Sure.
of things. And they really kicked themselves in the teeth by announcing their reboot 3 movies early,
Yeah.
and well, I guess 4 if you count Blue Beetle. But that really screwed them over, in my opinion, and that's why, or at least that's part of the reason why all the DC movies this year that have flopped, that's part of the reason why they've flopped as
Yeah.
hard as they have, because they knew a reboot was coming. So, like, why are we going to watch this? It's not going to matter. Now,
Yeah.
I still love Zachary Levi as Shazam. I thought he was, still great casting, and I still love him in the role. I don't think he was directed the best this time around, just because it didn't feel. Maybe it was because the concept wasn't as fresh as it was the first time.
Sure.
And not only was it not as fresh, but they also, in my opinion, didn't really explore that many new areas with it. I don't know,
Sure.
it's been a while since I've seen the movie, so some part of it may be a little bit
Mhm.
foggy. But and I liked the family dynamics, but also because so much time had passed, it's like
Yeah.
they weren't a family of like they were slowly not becoming a family of kids anymore. Because you have, I think Mary is her name, where she's talking about college already. It's like,
Yeah.
wait, you go from one movie where it's like this, this kind of ragtag group of kids that are hanging together. Next movie starts, hey, college applications. It's like, what? That was a little bit of a fast jump.
Yeah.
So wasn't thrilled about that. And also the whole thing with Gal that obviously got spoiled, but those where they've just used her cameo multiple times, both in
Yeah.
this and in the Flash, that it just kind of sucked a lot of enjoyment that I had for her version of the character dry.
That's fair. That's fair.
Even though I really liked her initially, she just had, like, I mean, I'll just say it, between her not good sequel to being probably one of my biggest issues with Zack Snyder's Justice League with the overuse of her music. And then these two back-to-back show up and leave cameos in Shazam and Flash. It kind of just made the character completely stale. And even though I love the portrayal when it's done well, lately it just hasn't been.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an issue I have, which is like the overall DCEU is that it's a universe of characters that I love that we can't see. Like you have Wonder Woman, you have the Flash, you have Batman. They're all out there somewhere, but we haven't seen them in a while, and their Justice League's out there apparently, but what are they doing, and why can't we see all of them at once again? And again, not the filmmakers' faults at all. It's I mean, it is to a certain extent, but not the people that are making these movies. Obviously, it's the higher ups and what has happened and all the drama, and that's why I'm very excited to move on with the DCU. Like I have a lot of people that are a fan of that like that universe on this channel, and I don't like bashing it too much, but I'm just so ready to move on. I'm ready to have a universe that we can explore again and not be limited by that guy's gone and that guy's gone and that guy's canceled and that guy's gone and she's in court and it's like
one that
Ah,
actually feels coherent, because this one really doesn't. Like, there's 3 or 4
yeah,
projects that are linked, and then the rest, even though yes they're marketed as being the same thing, the tone is so different and it makes them feel so standalone.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy that I mean, this universe is done this month. If you can even count Aquaman this universe. Like we're
Yeah.
finally at the end. We're finally here. We can move on in a couple years, and I'm definitely excited about that. What's your next option?
So
What's your next pick?
this is one that you briefly brought up earlier
Okay.
as one that you were fighting between. So I'll put this moment in here just so we can do it.
I bet.
Is the Flash, Kid Flash, Spartan, and Green Arrow team up from season 9, episode 9 of Flash? That one was just, I mean, it's a really good way to kind of bring the foundation of the Arrowverse full circle, because a lot of the other pseudo crossovers that happened in that last season, if you want to call them that, were not done good. I mean, because they butchered it completely with Batwoman. On Supergirl, at least in my opinion, even though I like Nicole, they made their final crossover as non-interesting as possible, which I didn't think was possible, but they exceeded that expectation. And because of how bad the season had been up to that point, I was just so
Yeah.
happy to see that, like, they finally returned to the roots of why I was invested into it in the first place. And
Yeah.
despite my issues with the individual shows and seasons, I'm not going to deny the impact that the whole Arrowverse had on me for the past couple of years. And just seeing all those guys team up in the best costumes they've ever had, all in the same shot, was really cool to see. And it was nice to see that they brought Sinel Ramamurthy back as Bloodwork, because in my opinion, he was the only good villain Eric Wallace ever did.
Yeah.
And they didn't ruin him in that episode, which I was surprised by. They still kept him as good as he had been. I wasn't a fan of how they kind of wrapped up the box storyline with Diggle. Wasn't thrilled about that, but so be it. What can you do? They weren't going to do anything with that anyway.
Yeah.
But it was just nice to see all those guys back again, especially Wally, who had been gone for a couple years, and he had gotten the short end of the stick. He really did. And it was kind of similar to Roy on Arrow when you look at it, because he was only had a big role in the 3rd season, and then only popped up time to time after that. And it was just kind of nice to see, like I said, all those guys back. Oliver and Diggle actually got a proper goodbye in this one. And then I mean, a lot of the action in the Flash side of things was not that great this season. And kind of bringing that Arrow fight scene back into it, even though, yes, there's obviously moments where you can tell the stunt double is not Stephen Amell, but it was just fun to see a lot of that stuff. And, all the callbacks that they had to previous episodes, previous seasons. There were a few problems in the episode that bothered me here and there. I'm like, okay, do we really need that? But overall, I really liked it.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I thought there was 2 episodes of the Flash this season that were amazing, and again, up and beyond literally everything else that had come prior to this episode. It was such just whiplash moment of me feeling very down in the bums, and I was very nervous about this episode, especially with the way the season was going. But the whole process of getting to this point was so special to me. It gave me one final Arrowverse. In my opinion, that was the end of the Arrowverse. We obviously saw the end of the Flash later on in a couple episodes, after that. But that moment at the end of the episode, that's when the Arrowverse ended. That was how the franchise. At that point, the franchise was over. And it's such a special way to end a franchise that's gone on this long, and one that means this much to me. That was, I think I was more sad at that moment than when Arrow actually ended. Because when Arrow ended, I was kind of not that sad. I mean, obviously I was sad to lose Arrow, but in my head, I was like, I still have Flash and Supergirl and Black Lightning and a spinoff that this is happening, all these things. And in my mind, it wasn't just Arrow as a show. It's it's we have all these shows, and it's just a cast member leaving a show that I love, So I was fine, and it's that moment. It's it's Arrow's over now. It's done.
Unfortunately, a lot of the shows didn't survive for long after it ended.
Yeah, no, it's such a special moment, and that final scene is one of my favorites in the Arrowverse as well. Yeah, and just bringing it back to the pilot and pairing that off, and Stephen Amell saw my tweet about that scene on Twitter, and that made my day. That was such a full circle moment for me, because that's like, that was one of the first. I mean, that was the first Arrowverse episode I ever saw, was the pilot of The Flash, and like that night was so good.
It just kind of brought me back to the good old days of the crossovers, because they were always at their best when Grant and Steven simply got to play off each other.
Yes,
and it
100%.
just reminded me of that.
Yeah, 100%. No, they were so good. And again, you can't have to mention Wally. Wally was great. Little kind of, I won't say I'm upset with how they ended Wally, but it was like they ended it very openly, as if they were going to play with him more. And it was like, no, wrap him up. Like I think,
it unresolved the character, because he felt more, even though he felt more three-dimensional than he did in season 6. When you last saw him in season 6, he felt like they were done with him there, and then they open up a new angle here. It's like, wait, there's still something here that you could do, and it's like, nope, not gonna do it.
Eric Wallace definitely had a thing this season where he didn't want to wrap characters up. Like, Dreamer came in to set up more stuff for her. I was like, no, set it up. Like, the season prior, they did the Mia stuff, and I was like, okay, they're gonna wrap up this stuff. No, they set it up more, and it's like, stop.
That was like, really frustrating to me in that season. It's like, okay, you're gonna bring her back. You could totally wrap
it up.
And
just say you found William. It's like,
they could have done that in, like, they could have had Kat in a season of Legends of Tomorrow and resolved it there.
Would have loved that.
It's a time travel show, so I mean, maybe it would have saved Legends in its later seasons.
Yeah, I don't know. It's, but like, besides that,
DC related.
Yeah, and then Bloodwork as well was a great villain. I wish he was the first half villain of the season. I think that would have been very cool. I love the idea, like, he's the villain, and then you have like Red Death as like a lackey for him or something.
If they kind of portrayed her as more of the lackey type and not supposed to be the big brain behind everything, then I could have maybe bought that. But just because they set Red Death up so poorly and then never explained where Batwoman was after the fact, it's like, does anyone even care to wrap this up the right way? Yeah, I had a lot of continuity problems with that last season, but I've gone into that.
Alrighty. Let me go into my next one here. Next one I have from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which was one of my favorite superhero movies of the year. Thought it was brilliant. Thought it was amazing. And there's a lot of scenes I could choose. Like, I could spin a wheel and just pick a scene from this movie that I loved, and it would be a valid choice. But it's kind of a quieter moment, I think. But it's when, like, they think Rocket's probably gonna die. They don't think he's gonna make it, and he comes back, and it's great. And like, they save him, and he's alive. And there's a scene with a Nebula where she finds out that Rocket's alive for the first time, and there's this moment in the room. She's like, it's like she can breathe again. It's like she's realizing that her friend that she loves very dearly is alive, is going to make it. And I think that's such a real moment for her that we've never seen. And I think her in this movie as a whole, I thought was brilliant. I think this is easily my favorite stuff from her as a character, kind of taking this like pseudo leadership role now that, you know, a bunch of their leads are kind of gone, right? And I think what they did with her in this movie was really, really good. And like, I think that we forget, like, all the other Guardians died except for her and Rocket. And that bond, that unseen bond that we never really got to see, is on display here. And she's kind of a wreck this whole movie. And then her finding out, hey, he's alive. He made it. I think is such a, I almost want to make me cry like while I'm watching the movie. It's so good.
Oh yeah, I enjoyed that movie. I think I had more issues with it than most people did, but I still enjoyed the movie overall. Yeah. My takes with the Guardians movies have been very different from that of a lot of people I've seen, because I love the first movie. I think it's one of the best movies in the MCU. The second one, I would actually put somewhat low if I were to rank everything from the MCU. I mean, I think the second one is funny, but from a narrative standpoint, I don't think it's that good of a movie. Maybe it's a hot take, but like, over the years, the more I've seen Guardians 2, I just liked it less and less less. And then when I saw the third one, I'm like, okay, I like this. This was better than 2, not better than 1. Now, they had some moments that really hit an emotional core. You know, like, I never expected to be, you know, and I never expected to watch a superhero movie and cry for a CGI raccoon or cheer whenever he said, "I'm Rocket Raccoon." I never expected to do that. Yeah, that brought something out of me that I didn't expect. So I will give James Gunn that. And to people that are worried about his DCU direction, I think just watch this movie, and I think you can say that it's in good hands.
Yeah.
Now, like, yes, there are going to be things that you don't agree with, but that's everything. You're never going to please everybody. But
yeah,
I liked the movie a lot overall. But kind of like what we were talking about with the whole Flash thing with Wally West, it kind of felt like it unresolved some of these Guardians too at the end of it, and kind of left their stuff open ended. But not in the way where, like, okay, like they're going to go and do their own thing. We just won't see them again. I was especially frustrated with how they ended Gamora's character. I'm like,
oh, really?
no.
Interesting.
Like, I really wanted to see more of her in that movie, especially considering, that it was not going to be the Gamora from that we had known for, the past number of years that died. So I still enjoyed the movie, but there were just some aspects of it. It's like, come on, you're this close. And also, I did not like, I can't remember his name, the kid from We're the Millers that played Adam Warlock. I was not a fan of that. I was not a fan of that aspect of it. I acknowledge that I might be in a little bit of a minority there, but I saw that and, like, this is not Adam Warlock to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think that part's a popular take. I don't read as much comics as everyone else, so as an original character to me that I have no, connection to, that wasn't an issue for me. I think the only kind of somewhat issue I had with the movie is I do think the ending's a little rushed, where they all kind of have to go their separate ways, and obviously for the ending they have to do that. But to me, it does feel like, well, you didn't feel this way like 2 hours ago. Like, you were all a family 2 hours ago. Now you had to go separate ways again. I like why I like that they do go their separate ways, but I think getting to that point is a big jump for a lot of these characters. Even though I like where they all kind of ended up. And
I liked how Rocket and Groot were kind of the leaders of the new
Avengers. I love the new Avengers.
I like that too.
100%. And again, there's so many moments from this movie I could pick from. Like, I could totally pick that final moment with them as, like, Rocket's leading the new Guardians. Like, that's a fantastic moment, and so many amazing moments that like you mentioned, like, I'm Rocket Raccoon, like that moment, him realizing he's a raccoon. Amazing, fabulous scene. So many great ones.
All that stuff with him and what's her name, Thieves. I was like, you guys will hit me in the core right now when I'm not expecting it.
Oh, all the baby raccoons, oh my gosh.
It's like, damn.
It hurts.
I was like, wow. Okay. It's not how I expected this to go, but all right.
100%.
I'll probably have to rewatch the movie again because, I mean, I don't know. I might have just been in a weird spot the day I watched it, but I feel like if I give it a rewatch, I'll get more out of it.
Sure. I think we both have 2 left, right? Or is it 1 left?
I've done 3.
Okay, so I think we have 2 left.
Yeah.
What's your next pick?
So my next one is actually from Spider-Man 2, the game, and that is going to be the big fight between Miles and Peter.
Ooh.
Oh my God, that scene was beautifully written. The dialogue from both Yuri Lowenthal and Najee Jeter, they knocked it out of the park in those. I mean, they did not miss a beat. And because you spent so much time with those characters in the games, you really felt their connection, especially in this title. And with Miles, who's still kind of coming into his own, and then Peter, who's been completely engulfed by the symbiote at that point, like, you understand so much of both characters' sides. And even though what Peter's doing is very clearly wrong, you understand a lot of his turmoil, and that's the best kind of drama that you can make in really any type of story, to where you're not agreeing with the antagonist, but you get why they're doing what they're doing. Like you can, I don't know if I want to say relate to it, but you can understand it. And
Sure.
And also, it was just really fun gameplay wise. I loved that part of it. And the fact that they used a little bit of sound, which was from, like, they used the sound likeness from the comics, despite the fact that they establish at an earlier point in the game that fire just doesn't affect the symbiote for whatever reason. That didn't really make a lot of sense, but I don't know, just the whole interaction with Peter and Miles in that fight, it brought me back to my favorite moment from the first game, which is the moment of where Peter fights Octavius on top of the tower. And it's not my favorite moment just because of like the intricacy of the boss fight and how the gameplay is structured. Although I do think that Doc Ock fight is the best one in that game.
Mhm.
It's just both of those moments are my favorite from those games because of purely how they're written, and also the music score in the back. Both of them are phenomenal, and like each bit of dialogue just hit like a gut punch, and you really felt it.
Mhm.
So loved that moment.
Yeah, no, I think Spider-Man 2 is such a just a fun experience for me. Like, just as far as like a superhero fan, I didn't play the first one or Miles when it first came out, and I think
Okay.
this game was such a like as like from the superhero world and us as fans, it's so fun to nerd out when something like this happens, and getting to play with like wow at the same time that everyone else is playing and geeking out about it, and going into this world and playing for both Peter and Miles, and everything about it was just like some of the most fun I've had as like a superhero fan. It's like
Oh yeah.
I am Spider-Man, and
Yeah.
like just like Stan Lee said, anyone can wear the
Anyone
mask,
can
and I'm
wear.
currently wearing the mask, and I
Mhm.
am Spider-Man. It's so good.
Yeah.
I had so much fun in
Yeah.
that movie. I don't have a moment from the game on my list, but if I
Yeah.
could just put the whole game on a list, maybe I would, because
Yeah.
it's definitely one of my favorite superhero things
Yeah.
that happened this year.
Yeah. I felt safe picking that one. I had a feeling I'm like, you know what, he might not go this far into thinking, so I felt safe putting that moment down. But I will
Yeah,
say, it's still not my favorite Spider-Man game because
yeah.
I grew up playing a lot of them. Like ones from like Super Nintendo 64, the GameCube, PS2
Hmm.
times. So I'm not going to say this one is objectively the best, but my favorite is still Ultimate Spider-Man, the one that Jordan's playing on his channel right now currently. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, love that game to bits. Obviously, I have a lot of nostalgia for it, but the fact that it followed the Ultimate Spider-Man comics run, which I thought was a fantastic run in comics. Not only did it keep the storyline, but it also had the art design and actually had events happening in comic panels. So it was
yeah.
just really a unique game for its time, and we haven't gotten that many like that. So I wouldn't be upset if more games return to kind of that comic booky style.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, technically, like, out of the three that we've got, like, out of this world, I think this one is technically my least favorite. Not because it's bad, just because I love the other two so much.
That's fair.
Um, but I mean, I love this trilogy of games, if you will. So I'm definitely glad that you picked something from the world of video games, because I didn't pick anything from the world of
Had
video
to be a little
games.
different because I
Yeah,
had a feeling there was going to be one or two when I put the original list together. I'm like, he probably has one or two of these, so I'm going to put these other ones into this too.
yeah. Out of the original ones that I have chosen, and I'll pick one from my other list, because you did the like Doomsday. But the last one out of my main list here, I have, and I had to choose it. And I figure you could also have this list because I think it's so good, and that's the big chase sequence in Across the Spider-Verse. I had to put it on here. It's a near perfect scene. And a Spider-Verse is another one. I could just close my eyes and pick a scene, and that scene could be on my list. Like, I could pick so many of the cameo moments, and so many of the great scenes in this movie. But I do think that like 15-minute long chase scene, where just leading up to it as well, like Miles finding out that he wasn't supposed to be Spider-Man, and finding out that his uncle's gonna die, and they have him locked in the shield, and him getting out, and just like again that 15-minute long chase, and again him finding out that he's not supposed to be Spider-Man, and how brutal that scene is, and seeing Miles outsmart like every other Spider-Man in like this
Oh
council
yeah.
of this council of Spider-Man, and everything about this scene, this whole sequence is, in my opinion, perfect. Again, this is one of my favorite, not only Spider-Man movies of all time, but just one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. Um, this movie also came out like on my birthday, so I think I have a very
Oh, okay.
special, like I think I'm always gonna hold a very special place for this movie, because I like on my birthday I went to see this amazing movie with some friends and had just the best time. Um, and it all kind of leading like again like basically to the end of the movie, like the chase scene kind of just goes on and on again, basically to the end of the movie, where it just ends, and I have friends next to me just being like, what do you mean it's over? What do you mean part one? Like what is
To be
this?
continued. Oh yeah, that I guarantee that pissed a lot of people off. I didn't see that one in theaters, but as soon as it ended, I was like,
Oh,
wait, like they're setting this whole big thing up. There's only like 5 minutes left in the movie, and then it says to be
Yeah.
continued. I'm like, are you kidding? Yep, they did it.
Yeah, it's such a good movie. I love this movie. I want to rewatch it again. I saw it twice in theaters. It's on Netflix now, so I think I might soon just put it back on and watch it because it's great.
Gotcha. Yeah. Oh,
Do you have any thoughts on that, or do you want to move on to your next
no,
one?
I really liked that scene actually, and that was actually that was the last one that I had in there. So I just swapped it as soon as you said
Okay.
it. Yeah, so I did have that exact scene in there. So I love the back and forth between Miguel and Miles in that, and just you see that Miles is dead set in his convictions that he's not gonna let someone die as long as he thinks he can do something about it, and the fact that he was being chased by, I mean, countless different Spider-Man, and a little bit of a funny callback. It reminded me of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies where Miles felt like Jack Sparrow running away from everybody. It made me think of that a little bit. I mean, without obviously all the comedic aspects, it's a dramatic scene, but I mean, I think Shamik Moore just knocked it out of the movie, or he just knocked it out of the park in the movie, and I loved that specific scene. Like I said, that was my favorite one there. But like you were saying too, I could just close my eyes and pick a scene out of that movie. It's great.
It's almost any scene in that film could just be in my top moments of the year. I could just do a top 10 Across the Spider-Verse moments and it'd be on there.
Oh yeah. And I don't think so. Here's the thing. I do really like the movie. I still am under the impression that I still prefer the first one a little bit more, but that's not to say the second one is bad, at all.
Yeah.
So I don't.
No, I mean, I think it's one of the rare sequels where they're in my eyes they are equal. Like, I don't necessarily think there is one over the other. It, like, for me, it literally just comes down to like history. Like, I did not see the first one in theaters, and I hate myself for not having seen it in theaters. And I saw this one in theaters on my birthday with friends. I was on 3 different live streams talking about the movie, so I have that history there. So like I was on Taz's channel for like 3 hours. I did my own. I was on Party Nation. Like, I talked about it so much, and I loved it. So I do think Across the Spider-Verse is slightly my favorite, but again, they're in my opinion they're both perfect movies. Like, like you could just pick like whichever one you say is your favorite one. That's valid in like every sense.
At least you had a better comic book movie that came out on your birthday than I did, because last year the one that came out directly on my birthday was Thor.
Oh no,
that was just an awful time. I'm like, this is terrible. And even though it's probably like it's not objectively the worst, you could say it's probably still just my least favorite in the MCU, just because I had such a rough time with it. I was like, come on, really?
Yeah, that's a rough one. I didn't automatically hate it when it came out of it, and like I legit I think there's a lot of things that movie there's things that movie I actually really like, but as a whole, that it's a mess of a movie. It's a real mess. Already, did you want to talk about your last one, right?
Yeah, I will talk about my last one here. My last one is actually from, and thankfully you haven't brought this up yet. It is from Loki, actually. That's my last one. I had to include one of those in there. And the scene I wanted to go over in that one is it's at the end of episode 6 where you have the goodbye between Loki and Mobius. That one really, really hit you like a ton of bricks.
Yes.
It's because Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston were acting their asses off in that scene. And just over the course of the show, like, they make a really good pair. Like, their chemistry is palpable, and especially considering how you saw at the beginning of the show where he wanted just nothing to do with Mobius, and then at the when you see them at the end of this season, it's almost like brotherly in a sense, not to the necessarily the same degree that he would have had with Thor had he gone down the better path, but it was still just a really well written scene. And then Loki finally he finds a way to control the time slipping, and he asks Mobius for all that advice about making the hard decisions. And I love what he says in response. He's like you can't you never want to be the guy who avoids it because you can't live with the consequence. And he's like, that's a really profound moment, and I think the writers they used that whole concept of like going back and redoing things to their advantage, because like you would look at a lot of things that you did in your life and you would want to obviously have a redo, but that can't happen because you wouldn't want to know what the consequences are like either. So that
Yeah.
one was just a really profound moment. I was glad that Loki got a season 2.
Yeah.
There were other ones that I wish would have gotten a season 2 also, but it is what it is. But
Mhm.
that one was definitely a standout as far as the Marvel Disney Plus eras go. And yeah, you did. That was the only one of mine that you really took was that one from Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
I did kind of as we were going through, I tried to stick to your rule of only one per project. So
Okay.
I'd like to think I did that pretty well. And yeah, 'cause
Yeah. No.
yeah,
You gotta say.
I was gonna say I had a feeling you weren't gonna pick like something from the Flash movie, so I figured I was safe there. And it was that Keaton scene, so I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna be the only one who talks about this.
Yeah. I mean, Loki. I mean, this is the one that like I didn't put in my top 5, and like as we're going, I was like, oh, I didn't mention Loki. I'm gonna put this down just in case there's one I have to top it out, because like by all intents and purposes, I think it definitely, this scene deserves to be in my top 5 moments of the year. It's just, I think it's brilliant. I think it's one of the better moments in modern MCU. I think it's like literally some of the best Marvel TV has ever been. Like I think Loki season 2. This might be a hot take, but I think Loki season 2, especially the final episode, is on par with like your Daredevil and your Agents of Shield. Like I think what it does is so beautifully amazing, and like if that is the end of Loki's journey, it's an amazing journey for Loki. It's such a profound ending for him. And just the visuals of him slowly walking up and his horns
Yeah,
changing and his clothes
I
morphing. It's
love
like,
that.
they're
Yeah.
doing it. He's the god of
Yep.
stories. Let's go. Like it's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah. It made me think back to that scene in Avengers when he's just walking through and his classic armor just forms around him. It made me
Mhm.
think of that moment, but there's a lot more narrative behind this one. So I don't know. I loved what they did there. And yeah, I thought season 2 was great.
Mhm. Yeah. So I think I still have one left. And I'm down to my second options.
Yeah,
And
you
kind
have
of
one
in
left.
there's two that I'll probably just bring up both because I think both scenes are very good. Both from DC TV. One surprisingly, and you would never think this from me, is from Titans. And
Oh,
I don't know if you watch Titans. Have you ever seen Titans?
yeah. Yeah, no, I finished it.
Okay. And it's almost unfair to Titans, but it is the Gar going into the red moment. And again,
Okay.
I'm not a massive Titans fan. I don't think that show's been very good. But seeing Gar go through the multiverse, and obviously this is something that we've seen in the past for like Crisis on Infinite Earths and the Flash movie, but seeing him go through the multiverse and see all these cameos, and Grant Gustin's getting that little cameo in the show, but
Yeah.
mostly the thing that was for me is seeing Beck Bassinger's Stargirl one last time. Probably her last ever appearance as Stargirl is something that's really, really special to me. Um, and I really respect a show that really never seemed to like respect the other DC TV shows, or it's kind of like a lot of the actors over the years have been like, I didn't want to be on that and stuff like that. So to see
Yeah.
them introduce so many other these elements in it, it did feel like Crisis and both Flash felt like they were honoring like just DC as a whole and the brand.
Mhm.
As much as I dislike what they did in Flash, they were celebrating the history of DC. Where that Titan scene felt like they were honoring DC TV especially. Like you've
Mhm.
got your Harley Quinn and your Swamp Thing and your Flash and your Stargirl and your Doom
Yeah.
Patrol and all that kind of stuff. And I kind of hate that my favorite moments from Titans is from like other shows. Like it's not even
Yeah.
like my favorite stuff from Titans is Doom Patrol and Stargirl. That kind of sucks. That might show you how I feel about Titans. But that scene is
Yeah.
it's very special to
Yeah.
me. I thought it was very good.
Yeah. I liked that scene originally, but then after
Mhm.
the Flash movie came out, I kind of got a
Yeah.
little bit pissed off at it because I saw that and I said, wait, so this low budget TV show put
Oh,
Grant
it's
Flash in the movie and
yeah.
this $200 million movie couldn't even use archive footage because there
Yep.
wasn't enough room?
Yep.
I mean, you just saw Titans do this a month ago and then we're just like, nah, there's no room.
Yeah. Yeah, I think both Crisis on Infinite Earths and Titans of all shows did it way better than the Flash did. Like, it's
Which
kind of
I never
insane.
thought I would say that about Titans, but
Titans of all
yeah.
shows, which is
I mean,
insane.
I liked the first, I liked the first season and most of the second season, but then,
Yeah.
after they did that stupid thing with Donna Troy, and then season 3 onward, you just started to realize, this is not a Teen Titans show. This is, excuse me, this is a Bat Family show now.
Yeah.
Like, these are the people that you would expect to be in a Gotham Knights show, but it just got really stale after season 2 for me, especially Red Hood. I didn't have super high expectations, but I'm like, really? That's how you're doing it? Come on.
Yeah. Titans was definitely not one of my favorite shows. I haven't talked about it much over the years because I don't have much nice to say about it. So, like, I don't have anything nice, don't say anything at all. I do just kind of want to bring up Doom Patrol as well, because I thought Doom Patrol had an amazing final season, and their final episode, at least the last 30 minutes or so, is one of my favorite endings to any show ever. I don't know if you've seen the show. I don't want to straight up spoil it, but
you can. I watched a few episodes into season 1 and then I stopped it, but you can spoil it if you want to. It'll probably be a while before I get to it.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of dedicated our last episode just to this, like, ending of Doom Patrol, and I thought its ending was beautiful. Like, obviously they all kind of go their separate ways. Some die, some move on, but the final scene of the show is Cliff in his car with his grandchild, and he gets this pendant that lets him see into both the past and the future, and he's in the car and he's seeing what his life with his granddaughter and his daughter would be like in his car, and all the events are through his car. It's his grandson graduating high school and getting a girl pregnant and running away from his family, and seeing his grandson for the first time. It's all these things through his car. It's all these events in his car, which is how Cliff's life started in the first place, was in his car, and that's how he this all happened to him in the first place. And it's such a perfect ending for him, and you end it with Cliff ultimately dying and his eyes close one last time, and that's when the credits roll, and it's such a beautiful ending to a show. And I was crying while this happened. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so sad and emotional, but also a beautiful way to end a beautiful show.
It sounds like a good ending. Yeah. I stopped a few episodes into season 1. I mean, like, the few episodes that I watched, I'm like, okay, this is cool, but then But then they had the moment where they crawled out of that goat's ass. I'm like, okay, this is just too stupid. I just can't do this.
I would recommend the first season. Like, I don't think it never gets as good as the first season, but I do think the first season is very, very good if you can handle some goofiness, because it is goofy. Like Doom Patrol is not a show for everyone. Like, if you're not into like the super overly goofy stuff, it's not a show for you, and that's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, it's
to an extent I am when I like the way it's done, but some stuff just isn't for me, like you said.
Yeah, I think it's like if Legends. I think it's Legends of Tomorrow done right. Like, I think it is very, very goofy, but it's also like a very dark and serious show as well. And like they use the weirdness in their benefit, and not because I think Legends, as much as I love Legends, it doesn't always do that. Sometimes it forgets it also has a story they have to tell. Like, it just does goofy stuff and forgets, oh, we have a storyline we have to get to. And I don't think Doom Patrol ever does that. Yeah, 100%.
They really forgot that they had DC superheroes in the later seasons.
Yeah. But did you have any others that you wanted to bring up that we didn't talk about already?
Not from projects that we didn't mention. I had some from other
go ahead. Go
other
ahead.
projects we had already mentioned. I had the Spider-Man fight with Scream in Spider-Man 2. I thought that was going to be the one that I was fighting between that one and the Miles fight. Just because that was another one, again, where, like, the boss fight itself is a lot of fun, but what made it for me was the writing and the dialogue. And Laura Bailey killed it in that scene. I mean, oh my God. And it was funny because, like, I died multiple times in that fight just because I was paying attention to the dialogue. And I was like, these guys are really, really good at writing. And then I had another moment from Superman and Lois, the moment that got this past season, really famous, is the scene in the diner whenever he confronts, whenever he confronts the dad. Yeah, I had that. And that's what I actually convinced a few of my friends to watch the show, because they had just put it off because it was a CW show. And
cool.
I understand that. I do.
Yeah.
But that just showed you how good of a character Clark Kent is. Like, when
Yeah.
Clark Kent is mad, you know you've screwed up. Like, he's not even Superman. Like, they specifically say in that scene, Superman is not going. And he did not, like, flinch. He didn't break character. He didn't, go over it. Stayed completely stone cold the entire time.
Yeah.
And the scene was just really well written. And after that happens, he goes back to being the most polite guy on the face of the planet. Says, "I'm sorry, I interrupted everyone's dinner." It's like, this is Clark Kent. Come on.
No, that's so good. There's very few moments when an Arrowverse adjacent show on Twitter can go viral and it's a good thing. Like, normally when
a lot of times it's a bad thing.
It's the bad stuff, and it's like, come on, guys, stop sharing this out of context stuff. But that one was like, I saw when people were like, "Whoa, what is this show cooking? Like, is this show actually doing some cool stuff?" And I'm so happy. And I think Doomsday is also, and so many scenes from season 3 did this, where it got shared on Twitter. It was like, oh wait, this is actually really, really good. And season 3 as a whole is just, again, it's another one where pick a moment. There's so many great moments. So many good ones.
I don't think season 3 was as good as season 1, but I still think it was a great season.
Yeah, same. I think season 1 as a pack, I think I like more scenes from season 3 than season 1, I think, but season 1 I think is a better package deal. Like, start to finish, it's it's so good.
Really the only problem that I had with the overall show, I didn't even mind the story of season 2. I liked the narrative that they had. I just didn't like the villain of season 2. That was the only legitimate problem with the show I've had, is I didn't think season 2's villain was that good.
Yeah, I think season 2 drops the ball a little bit, but like, I still think it's good. Like, I like people go on and talk about how it's like it's such a drop off, and I still think it's good. Like, I still think it's better than like half of the Arrowverse.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I'd still give it like, like, say I were to give season 1 like a 9, season 3 like an 8. I'd probably give season 2 like a 7.
Yeah, it's like 6 or 7 for me as well. Yeah, I just enjoy that show. Throughout this, I didn't mention anything from like a Blue Beetle or like a Ninja Turtles or like a My Adventures Superman, but all those
I didn't even
also
think
have great
about
moments.
that. I didn't even think about My Adventures with Superman.
My Adventures with Superman, they have a lot of scenes in there as well that I loved, but it just didn't make my list, unfortunately.
I didn't even think about that when I was putting my list together. Wow, I feel a little bad now.
I just think, and this is my opinion, I think this has been one of my favorite years for superhero content. Like, again, there's been some drops. Like, I didn't like Ant-Man, I didn't like The Flash, and I didn't like Titans, but I think as a whole, like, your Blue Beetle and your Loki and your Superman and Lois and your Spider-Verse and your Guardians are just so many good stuff had come out for me that it is one of my favorite years, maybe since 2018, because I think 2018 was insane. You know what I mean?
That was a big year.
Infinity War alone, I would probably takes out all these projects.
I mean, what did you have that year? You had Infinity War, Deadpool, Black Panther, Aquaman, Spider-Verse,
but Insomniac Spider-Man as well.
And then the first game, were so many different things. And it's funny too, I keep telling people this, it's hilarious that the first Aquaman made $1.2 billion.
Yeah.
This second one is, I bet it's not even going to break even.
Nope.
No, it's not even going to get close.
Yeah. Nope. Sad times for sure. And again, What If and Aquaman 2 is still yet to come out. Maybe not going to make a lot of money, but I hope that movie's still good at least. Like, I hope it was just a good movie. I'm scared because I have a feeling it may not be, but hopefully there's good moments in there.
It's kind of in a similar situation with The Flash, where at least part of its reception is going to be hurt by controversy. So that's not exactly. I mean, it's easier when it's not the lead actor this time around, so they don't have to show a side character as much. So at least they're a little bit fortunate there.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious, but because that comes out soon. Like, both these projects are airing really, really soon, and it kind of snuck up on me actually about how close it is.
Aquaman 2 is in like a week, I think.
Yeah, I wanted to wait till like some of these shows aired, but then I would have had to wait till next year, and there's a lot I'm planning next year. I was like, I'll just do it now. Hopefully, What If sucks, where we don't have to, no, I'm kidding. I don't want it to suck. I'm actually really excited for that show. I hope it's good.
I loved the first season of What If, so I mean, the concepts for this one, they didn't blow me away when I saw like what the titles and stuff were going to be, but I'm still at the very least interested.
100%, 100%. I just hope it's good. And again, next year is going to be a lot like less, but I also think next year has some
Yeah.
bangers. Like I think Deadpool 3, and I think Superman Lois season 4, and The Boys 4, and like I think there's still some fun stuff to be had next
Oh
year.
yeah,
For
I
sure.
didn't even think about The Boys. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even like Gen V had some great moments this year as well. That there's too much good stuff that came out. Too much good stuff.
Yeah, this has definitely been a pretty good year.
Hmm.
After a few years of not great
Yeah.
stuff, because I mean 2022 was very very up and down.
Hmm.
2021, the only great things of that year, at least in my opinion, were No Way Home
Shang-Chi.
and
Shang-Chi was pretty good.
yeah, that one was okay. But No Way Home and Zack Snyder's Justice League were the two big takeaways from me of that year.
Sure.
Um, and I don't dislike Shang-Chi either. I don't know. I didn't love it as much as most people did, but I still enjoyed it. And then you had
Mm.
Eternals, which I didn't go to the theater and see that one. It took me
Yeah.
a week to watch that movie because I kept falling asleep.
I had just worked like an 8-hour shift. I went to the movies, and I was excited for it. Like I thought it was gonna be really good, and I still think it's good. Like I don't think it's a bad movie. I was just bored. Like I didn't care.
Well, if and what's funny is if you have the knowledge of and maybe this was to my detriment, but if you have
Yeah.
the knowledge of who the Eternals are from the comics in your mind already, they're a bunch of asshats. Like you
Yeah.
don't want to root for those guys, and the
Sure.
movie didn't really do a good job of making you want to either.
Hmm. Hmm. But with all that being said, we are going to be wrapping up the stream here. Jake, thank you so much for coming on here and talking about some superhero stuff. It's been a fun year,
Thank you
and
for having me.
yeah, of course, man. Of course, you were a great final new guest of the year. You can leave your hat being like I was the last new guy to come on. Jake, where can people find you?
So, at the sites that I have listed here on my headline, you can find me on these platforms: YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, PSN. Even though I think it says PS5. I had Blue Sky on there previously, but because I don't really use it right now,
Yeah.
I'm keeping it off till it gets popular. If it even does, I have no idea if that's going to happen or not. But
Yeah.
yeah, I try to upload at least once or twice a week. There was a little bit of a drop just because I was really sick over the past few days, but now it should be getting back up to speed. I do secrets of videos for older games, newer ones. I'll take a really old game and do a retro review of it. So if any of
Oh
you guys
yeah.
are looking for retro fixes, then you can definitely look there.
Mhm.
And feel free to leave your opinions in those, and tell me about all the ways that I'm wrong and that you disagree with me.
That's how it works here. But yeah, his link to at least his YouTube is linked down below. I'll try to add the rest of the stuff later if you're watching this on playback. But yeah, again, Jake, thank you for coming on here. This was a fun episode. As far as promo for next week, guys, next week is our Christmas episode. We're gonna be ranking Christmas-themed superhero projects. If the movie takes place during Christmas, then we'll rank it and talk about it. Or if it even if it just takes place, like there's some weird ones where it's like Spider-Verse takes
Yeah.
place somewhere around Christmas. I don't know. It could be somewhere around there. I have a guest kind of lined up, but not confirmed yet. But y'all will
Gotcha.
see who's coming back to the table. Again, Jake, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who watched today. We had a lot of great people in the chat. Obviously, Kai, as always, Chainsaw Reacts was here. Exit Over Here was here. Chris was here. So many people. LBM was here. A lot of great people stopped in today. But with all that being said, I will see y'all on the flip side. Bye bye.